My name is Franci. I am 41 years old. I'm a mother of 3 children and 4 grandchildren. Today, my life is really good, but it's not always been that way. As a little girl, I had a wonderful mother and 3 sisters. My mother did the best that she could possibly do with 4 girls. She didn't have a mother to really guide and direct her. So it was a battle and a struggle for her. So she kind of grew up with us girls. At some point during that period, we had a neighbor that was very young, and he also had issues and he molested us girls. So that was a little hard to deal with as a child, because I really didn't quite understand that it was wrong. I'd never been taught right and wrong there. So as I grew into a young woman, we lived in Ashland at that time, and as I grew into a young woman, I always mistook what happened to me as a child was what love was, and it truly wasn't, but I didn't know that at the time. So growing up, my mom had quite a hard time with me. I was a rebellious teenager. I got into trouble every chance I could. I think that at that point in my life, I was seeking some kind of attention from that trouble, whether it be negative or positive. I was just seeking attention from somewhere, whether it be through the trouble, through the boys, through the things that I was doing. As I got older, I was seeking places to find joy and peace and happiness. And I thought that, what other people had found in marijuana and booze and fornication, I thought all those things brought that. So I dabbled in all of it growing up, and before I knew it, when I was 16 years old, I ended up pregnant with my first child. As a child, I really didn't know what to do with that baby, but I knew the positive for me at that time was there's the love I've been looking for. In my mind, I'd finally have found someone that would love me no matter what. And that was very exciting for me, but little did I know at that time, having a child came along with so many responsibilities and resources that a 16-year-old just does not have. So I had the child, and I ended up getting married to a very young guy, his father. He was 15 years old when I had my son. And we moved into a place in Grayson, in the city that I'm from, and it turned out really bad. You just don't put 2 young kids together like that with no life experience. His mother was helping pay the rent and things of that sort, and it really blew up. I lost custody of my son there at that period in my life. I was 18 years old when I finally lost custody of my son. The moment I lost custody of my son, I went on a straight downward spiral. I loved that little boy with all my heart. I just really didn't know how to be a good mother to him. The solution surely was not me losing custody, but that's exactly what happened to me. So I lost him, and I went out and sought a place to live. I was sleeping on people's couches, people I didn't even know. I was sleeping on their couches, and a lot of the times I would find single males or older males that I could go sleep on their couch, take advantage of them, and get what I needed as far as survival goes, food, shelter, showers, whatever I could. And that went on for me for a few years, 4 or 5 years. I didn't yet meet addiction, but I did meet drugs at that point in my life. And I felt at that time that they gave me something that I needed, which was a utopia, which was a peace. When I would take the drugs at the time, all my worries went away for that time. But I do realize, and did at the time, that when I woke up, those problems were right there. So it truly didn't make them disappear at all. It just kept them on hold for a minute. So I went deeper and deeper into that. But I ended up going on and having 2 more children by the time I was 21 years old. My father had bought me my first car. He tried to help me. He sent me to school and stuff. But what he didn't realize is I was not used to that kind of lifestyle. I was used to the party lifestyle. I was not used to that kind of support. I was used to just partying and fighting and, just living wild all the time. So it really was something that he couldn't do was he really wanted to help me, but he couldn't because, he didn't know how to. So I let him, he got me the car, and he tried his best to help me, but I was beyond at that point in my life. After I had the 2 children, before I got on drugs, I moved into a place here in Grayson. And I remember one night I watched The Passion of Christ for the first time. As wild as I was at that time in my life, I felt the conviction come over my heart, and I felt the love of Christ that night. Before, when I was 18 years old, I used to have dreams of being on a white horse, slaying demons in a field. I know that might sound crazy to some people, but it was reoccurring, and I couldn't understand what it meant, but I knew it meant something. So at that time, I knew God was pursuing me, even then. But once I watched The Passion of Christ, I'll never forget the way I felt, the heartbreak that I felt for the man that went to that cross for me that night. I went out on my balcony and I cried my eyes out, and I asked for forgiveness that night, but not yet did I fully surrender my life. I went on to drinking, drugging, partying, the whole kit and caboodle that's out there in the world. I felt and thought I had to do everything and anything that was bad, but still I had a good heart and I had a good intention, but kept finding myself in the darkness. So I went on and ended up in a car wreck and broke over half the bones in my right side of my body and had to learn to walk again. There is where I met true drug addiction. There is where I met prostitution. There is where I lost custody of my children. And there is where I met the drug world. I thought it was dark before that. It couldn't touch the darkness that was in the world of addiction. I went on for quite a while until one day I sold a Suboxone and a Percocet 30 to someone. They were wearing a wire. Little did I know at the time that that would be the beginning of the end of my addiction. I ended up getting 2 felony drug charges, and they took me and put me in drug court by the grace of God. Drug court really impacted my life. It helped me so much. Right there is where I found the foundation, and that's exactly where I needed to go that was going to lead me to Christ. I've opened up a Narcotics Anonymous here in Grayson, but still yet I felt something lacking in my life. I knew there was something missing. So I began to come to church after I married my husband, and he introduced me to a pastor that was his pastor for years. And he began to bring me to church at that time. And that is when I finally gave my heart to Jesus. And I will never forget that day. I looked up at the sky and I said, God, it is yours. I am tired. I've made a mess of my life. And I asked him to come into my heart that day, and my life was never the same. I went on, God blessed me and took me so many places I never thought in a million years I could go. See, because this world labeled me trash. They labeled me a junkie. They labeled me a deadbeat mom. But my God had a bigger plan. So I went on and I did mess up. I graduated drug court. 3 years later, I had a relapse. So I went back out into the world for almost 2 years. 2013, I relapsed. I went back out into the world until 2015. God did not stop pursuing me through that whole relapse. He did not give up on me. He kept calling me till finally he put me in a position that I didn't have any choice but to go back to my knees and turn my life back to him. That day was 4 years ago, February 10th. And God has brought me so far. I will never regret the decision to give my heart back to Jesus and give him full control. The very day that that happened, 3 state police and 2 social workers knocked on my door and removed my children for the 3rd time. And I knew that day that God would not stop until I surrendered my heart to him. Let me tell you what he's done. Today, I'm the director of REwired Recovery with an amazing family in REwired. Today, I'm a worship leader. It's one of the most amazing things that you could possibly do is sing to Jesus. Today, I have 2 children that I had full custody of that will be graduating high school June the 1st. My kids are not going to graduate with some foster mom. Their mommy gets to see them walk across that stage. Their mother. Today, every track mark that was on this body is nothing but a fainted scar. God can do it for me. He can do it for anybody. And He wants to. He's pursuing every single one of us to call us out of the darkness into greatness. And I say right now, anybody watching this, if I can tell you one thing, surrender your life today and you will never regret that decision.